Hello, welcome back to Hot Kitchen. I'm Wendy, and I'm back with another great idea to feature on your next date night at home. This one's really going to turn up the heat in your kitchen. Tonight we're going to feature red snapper in bright sauce, pumpkin polenta, zucchini wrap-ups, and for dessert, pumpkin latte cheesecake with some bonus pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. So let's get started on that dessert first. You're going to need to take 1/3 cup of butter and cream it with quite a bit of sugar, about a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, fairly firmly packed, and a 1/2 cup of white sugar. Use your blender on a medium setting and just mix the butter and sugar together until you have one nice, smooth, fluffy, creamy consistency. This is the first step in just about any type of drop cookie. The cool thing about this recipe is it's kind of cakey. Work all that sugar and butter together. You want to see no lumps of brown sugar and no lumps of butter. And then proceed by adding the rest of the damp ingredients and the spices. Add 1 egg, a couple teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. I prefer to use fresh ginger. A teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of baking powder, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Blend these together. Nice little fold in there. You want to mix it until you see the egg is fully incorporated. And then add your cup of pumpkin. Fold that in. And give the sides of your bowl a little scrape down here. Make sure you get the bottom too. Go right back into blending. Now it's time to add structure into the recipe, so add about a cup of flour. Start by folding it in before I turn on my beaters. Now you don't want to overbeat it at this stage, because if you overbeat it, the glutens in the flour will start to develop and toughen up your cake/cookies. So you just want to fold it in, scrape down the sides of the bowl, and maybe just use your spatula to do the last little bit of mixing. And then this is ready to form the crust, the bottom layer of that delicious pumpkin latte cheesecake. So take a nice little scoop of it, and in a small loaf pan, spread it out on the bottom to cover the surface. It's kind of thick, so you'll want to use your spatula to work it into the corners. This is going to form a lovely foundation for one of the best cheesecakes you might ever have in your life. You can see that I have lined my loaf pan with a little bit of parchment, and that's so that I can get the cheesecake out easily once it's all baked together. Just a nice little layer there on the bottom. Try to get it nice and even. And then let's go back to the cookies. So you're going to have all this batter left over. No sense letting it go to waste just because you don't need it to form the cheesecake. Add a cup of dark chocolate chips to it. Fold those chocolate chips in, and then you have pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. And who wouldn't want pumpkin chocolate chip cookies? Now then, just going to start scooping these onto a lined sheet pan. These are lovely and delicious, and your sweetie's going to be absolutely thrilled with them. Now then, these are ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to place this on the top rack, which is centered about in the middle of my oven, and place the cookies on the lower rack. You'll note that I gave them all plenty of space to stretch out. I've got the oven set at 350 degrees. And I'm gonna let the crust go for about 10 to 12 minutes, and the cookies are probably gonna take about 15. Thank you for watching Hot Kitchen. If you like our show, we think you'll also like our e-cookbook. It's available for your Nook, your iPad, your Kindle, your computer, and a whole lot of other devices. You can find it at our website, hotkitchenonline.com. Let's get started on the filling next. So there's 3 components to this cheesecake. There's a crust, there's the cheesecake filling, and then there's a coffee syrup. This part is, of course, one of the most important parts. That's 8 ounces of cream cheese. I'm actually using Neuchâtel, a reduced fat cream cheese. You need a ½ cup of sugar, and you want to start by creaming the fat and the sugar together. Very similar to how you made the crust. Work the cheese and sugar together until it's nice and light and fluffy and creamy and delicious. Very good right there. Next, add your egg yolks, 2 of them, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and whip those egg yolks first. It's going to be light and creamy, a bright yellow color. And then fold them into the cheese and sugar. Looks like it's time for a little scrape down. You always want to scrape the side of the bowl whenever you're mixing up anything goopy, because components will stick and then they won't mix in, right? And then your recipe could turn out all wrong. Using a low speed, just blend that silky mixture together. Very nice, very nice. And now add a ½ cup of heavy cream. Again, make sure you scrape the container that you have that in, because you want to get it all in there. And blend again. Nice low speed, you don't want it splashing up on you. Just fold it together. You can see how it's becoming kind of a gloopy mixture, kind of loose. You're basically making a cheese custard here. Looks like it's time for another scrape down. There we go. Keep that speed nice and low and slow. Incorporate a nice little amount of air in there. And then you'll want to clean your beaters. You don't have to go crazy here, you just want to rinse the other cheese and sugar and stuff off of them, because you're going to beat the 2 egg whites from those 2 eggs to a nice fluffy meringue and then fold it in. And it's going to make the cheesecake just puffy and light and airy and delicious and incredible. So beat the egg whites to soft peaks. Let's see how we're doing here. Very nice. Holds a bit of a peak and then the top falls over. That's just right. Let's fold these into the batter. Just flop it all in there. Now the cool thing about soft peak egg whites is they have a nice ability to make things rise. Think about angel food cake. That rises beautifully because the eggs are not beaten fully to stiff peaks, so they still have a lot of ability to expand. And that is what's going to make this cheesecake amazing. You'll note that I'm not using the power setting, I'm just folding it in using the blenders. That's because I don't want to lose all that beautiful structure I just built up in the egg whites. Fold that together. And once I see that all the big lumps of egg white are mixed in to the custard, I'm just going to set it aside and work on the coffee syrup next. Make a little room here because before I really get into the coffee syrup, I'm going to need to pull this stuff out of the oven. I'm just poking the surface here to see if it springs back, and it does. So that means that the crust is ready to come out. Now let's check the cookies. Kind of the same thing here. I'm going to go right to the middle of the pan and see if the center is set up. I like the cookies when the center is just barely set, almost underdone. And then we'll just set these out to cool as well. Now back to that coffee syrup. So you're going to want to take 3 ounces of very strong coffee. This is actually leftover coffee that I just boiled down to be nice and strong. Reduced it by about 70%. I'm going to add to that a teaspoon of sugar and about a teaspoon of cinnamon and 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just going to bring it up to a boil. Whisk in that sugar and cinnamon and get it to dissolve. And like I said, we just need to bring it up to a boil, and we're going to turn it into a coffee simple syrup. And this is the third and final component of the pumpkin latte cheesecake. You want to thicken up the coffee syrup so that it stays in ribbons as you pour it into the custard cheesecake filling. And then you bake it all together, and the end result is incredible. This has thickened up very nicely. Nice thick little syrup. So let's take it off the heat so it doesn't get any thicker. And then let's start building the cheesecake. So you want to take your custard batter and pour it right in on top of your pumpkin crust. Should pour beautifully like a ribbon. You want to fill it till it's about 2/3 full. And then place it in a water bath. And a water bath is just a larger pan that can completely hold your other pan. Just like that. And you want to cook custards and cheesecakes and whatnot in a water bath because it really helps to cook it gently. It doesn't damage it. It's just the right way to do it. Now take your syrup and you want to drizzle it in to the custard. Use a spoon and just kind of lace it across the surface. See how nice and thick that is? That's fun, huh? Coffee syrup. And this is the component that makes it truly a pumpkin latte. And then take your spoon, kind of fold it through, marbling the syrup all through the cheesecake. And then put this back in the oven. You're going to want to reduce your heat to about 300 degrees. Custards and cheesecake and the like a nice low temperature. Place it in there carefully because you don't want that water to go everywhere. And then it's probably going to need to bake for about an hour or so. Bake it until you insert a knife into the middle of the cheesecake and it comes out clean. All right. With dessert cooking in the oven, it's time to focus on the main event, dinner. So I'm going to start by showing you how to make this delicious pumpkin spice polenta. I'm going to take about a 1/2 cup of polenta, and the rest of the pumpkin from the can, it's going to be about a 1/2 cup or so. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in there. I've got my pan preheated to speed things along. I'm going to add a couple cloves of chopped up garlic, about 2 cups worth of water, cups worth of milk, and about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And then it's time to stir that all together. Polenta requires lots and lots of stirring to make it happy, but it's not a constant like it is with risotto. It's just a check in on it and keep it from sticking to the bottom kind of thing. So I want to stir it to dissolve the pumpkin all the way into it. And then I'm just going to add a cinnamon stick into it to kind of spice it up, you know? And with that done, I'm just going to go ahead and put a lid on it because when it starts to bubble and spurt, it's kind of explosive and it can burn you. So with that done, next thing to do is toast about a 1/4 cup of almonds. This is for the fish. Give it a little shake here and get all those almonds spread out nicely, a little toss, and then just let them do their thing while you prepare the fish. And over here, I'm going to hit these fish fillets with a nice amount of salt and pepper. I'm working with red snapper. I've also experimented with rockfish, and this of course would be delicious with cod. Just want to find a nice meaty fish, not quite as strong flavored as salmon, but not as mild as halibut for this particular recipe. And of course you want to salt and pepper them at first so that the flavor goes deep inside. And then you're going to want to hit this with the juice of about half a lemon. Lemon and fish are just such a quintessential combination. Brings out the brightness, kills the fishy flavor. Just a good thing to do. And the zest of about half an orange. Just using a nice little microplane zester here. Kind of tap it off. And some of the lemon zest as well. You don't have to get too fussy about this. You just want to accent the bright flavors with the cleanness of the citrus. Make sure you scoop what's left off the back of your zester if you're using one like this. And then take coarsely chopped garlic, sprinkle it over the top, and coarsely chopped parsley. There we go. And the fish is prepared for cooking. And now I need to go wash my hands. And let's get back to these almonds. A nice little flip here. I want to see the almonds develop a little bit more color than that. So let's check on the polenta. It has not come up to a boil yet, but you can see that it's already starting to thicken up. Each little grain of polenta is starting to soak up the liquid. Before the polenta goes any further, I'm going to add a little bit of orange zest into this too, so it kind of is a reciprocal flavor to the fish. I'm going to use the zest of the other half of the orange. Tap it in there. Give another little loving stir. And then put the lid back on it. These look like they're developing a nice little color. So now just take them out of the pan, set them aside, let them cool down a little bit. And let's check on the polenta again. Oh good, we're up to a little boil. So I'm gonna have a nice stir, make sure I hit the sides of the pan and the bottom of the pan. And hey, if you like our recipes, we have an e-cookbook. You can find it at hotkitchenonline.com, and it features all the recipes from our first 22 episodes. And with that done, it's time to move on to putting the fish in the pan. Now, of course, I picked out some ginormous fillets, which always presents a small logistical challenge when putting them in the saute pan. I will act carefully here. Slide them in. I just want to get a nice sear on the surface first, and then we'll add a bunch of other fun ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of the lemon juice in there. That's going to take the juice of half an orange and go ahead and put it in there now too. Let that kind of cook off and concentrate and turn into all sorts of good things. And then just leave that be for a few moments while it develops a nice color on the bottom side. And you can see how nice and thick the polenta is getting. One of the cool features about polenta is that the longer you cook it, the thicker it gets. So if you like it kind of thin and soupy, you want to add maybe another cup of water than what my recipe called out for, which was 2 cups water, 1 cup milk. And if you like it a little thicker, well, just cook it a little longer. Most important thing is that before it's all cooked, you check it for its seasoning by giving a little taste test. Perfectly seasoned. And that's also how you can tell when the polenta is done, when there's no more crunchiness or coarseness to the grain. At this point, it's about halfway there. So I'm just going to keep stirring it while my fish cooks. This polenta has come to a very nice consistency, so I'm going to go ahead and just pull it off my burner here, freeing it up for the steaming setup, which I'm going to be using for the zucchini wrap-ups. Get that pre-warmed, and then let's give the fish a little flip here and let them finish on the other side. That looks very nice, doesn't it? Nice little color developed from the citrus. Just give them a couple minutes here. You want to let them cook all the way through, and then we'll remove them from the pan and make the sauce. And while everything else is getting ready to go over there, I'll show you how to make the little zucchini wrap-ups. So just want to take a vegetable peeler and peel off a couple nice strips of zucchini. Actually, I peeled off about 10. And then take a Roma tomato, slice it into 10 little slices. Hit the tomato with some salt and pepper. You're gonna love these. These are such a fun way to eat vegetables. And then just roll the tomato up in the zucchini strip. And stab it with a little toothpick to hold it all together. And there you go. Zucchini wrap-ups. Put it over there. And then let's whip up a little compound butter to put over the top of those. Let's take a tablespoon of softened butter and about a teaspoon of basil and about a clove's worth of chopped garlic, and just kind of blend them together. And this is going to be what you garnish those tasty little zucchini wrap-ups with when they're all done steaming before you plate. Now let's see about getting this fish out of the skillet and into a little holding pan. Now, these fillets are so large, I'm going to need to use 2 spatulas to get the job done. Come on now, my little fish. All right, well, we'll take that one as it is. It's fine. And now let's whip up some sauce here. Don't worry about those fish chunks in the pan. They'll just add to the flavor. Go ahead and add a tablespoon of butter to the mix. And then you're going to want to whip together about a teaspoon of cornstarch and a half cup of white wine. You always want to dissolve your cornstarch in a cold liquid before you add it to any sauce. Just let that hang out there for a moment. And back to your pan over here. Add about a quarter stalk of celery and a couple inches off of a leek, thinly sliced. A little toss here, get it going. Bring the heat up to a medium simmer. It's a nice little simmer going on there. Now the thing with this is that you want to keep the heat low enough that the leeks and celery don't brown. You want to indulge the delicate flavors created by a nice light saute. This is more of a sweating. And just when you see everything start to soften up, you want to add your wine and cornstarch mix. And then bring that back up to a bubble. Let the wine cook down a little bit. And then your sauce is ready. And while that does its thing, let's get the zucchini wrap-ups steaming. Just go ahead and drop them in here to your steaming little station. Let them steam for 3 to 6 minutes, or until they're nice and tender, but not overdone. Here's the light simmer we were looking for on the sauce. I'm gonna let it do its thing and reduce a touch, concentrate those flavors in there. Very nice. Let's take a look at the cheesecake. Now you remember I said that you want to stab it in the middle with a knife and see if it comes out clean. And that's what I'm going to do right now, all the way down, all the way back. Fairly clean. That will do. Let's go ahead and get it out of the oven and cooling off. Handle it carefully because that's a lot of hot water. You don't want that on you. Perfect. You want to let the cheesecake cool all the way. Now let's get on with our plating here. You're going to start by garnishing the fish with your toasted almonds. And then the sauce. Let's pour that right over on top. Nice and buttery, bright, yummy. Little wine reduction in there. Let's add the polenta. You want to avoid the cinnamon stick. And just put a nice little blop on the plate. Frame in the fish. You want to pick out any little bits of cinnamon stick that may have found their way in there. And then let's grab the vegetables. Zucchini wrap-ups. They're delicate, so handle them gently with a set of tongs. Kind of pile them up. And hit them with a nice dollop of that compound basil-y butter. Right there on top. And it's just gonna melt and coat and make these all sorts of yummy for your sweetie. And there you go, a nice date night dinner to enjoy with your sweetie at home. And this one, it isn't even too bad for you. Well, except for that cheesecake, but that's dessert. So pair this with a nice bright white wine, perhaps a nice Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Gris, and call in your sweetie. Sweetie, dinner time! Well, hi. That's convenient, because I brought you dinner.
It's absolutely delicious. Yum.
Let's do it. Thank you. That's so not so bad yourself. Practically have me speechless.
Aww.
Delicious. You're gonna like this one. Meow.
This is such a hot kitchen.
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. Have fun turning up the heat in your kitchen, and I'll see you next week. Night night. pet the kitties.